for ideas. And I came across this mansion, which is it's a replica of the South Fork Ranch from the Dallas TV show. So it's that kind of run-down house that you see in the film.
And you watched Dallas as
and
a
I
kid.
watched Dallas as a kid. I mean, a very young kid. And one of the seasons that was kind of a big deal was the death of Bobby Ewing, and the Dream season. I don't know if you're familiar with Dallas, but the Dream season was I don't know, something that I remembered from when I was a kid, and then I guess with this, having these two houses identical, one in the U.S. and one in Romania, it came this idea of, well, what if, when Bobby died in Dallas, he wakes up in this alternate universe, alternate reality in Romania.
And I came to it because I'm married to it. I'm married to her, so and we work together. And this is really probably our first big major project that we've done together. So hopefully first of many. And I think, one way to think about the film, even though it's kind of weird and experimental, is it's almost kind of like like in Spider-Man, when Peter Parker gets bitten by the radioactive spider and then he becomes Spider-Man. It's like the origin story of the hero. It's kind of Livia's fantastical fictional origin story as an American and also as an artist, eventually. So.
Did both of you write it together? I didn't get to see the credits. And did you direct it together, or?
Yeah, we did everything together.
Okay.
Produced it, directed, wrote it.
There was really almost no crew on this film besides ourselves. So, Livia's in almost all the scenes, so I shot those, and then the scenes that I was in, she shot those, and I think there's only one shot where we're actually in it together, where I drop her off by the side of the road. And in that scene, I think we just set the camera on a tripod on the side of the road, and,
And we
it
actually,
poured.
we only had a 3-page outline when we went to Romania to shoot it, and we were inspired by Wim Wenders. We heard that he shot Paris, Texas in that way, making the movie as he went along. So for us, going to Romania and kind of discovering the story as we went along was important. So we kind of wrote it as, each day we would film a scene, and then in the afternoon we would write another scene.
How did you get started? Patrick Duffy?
So, you'll notice that he's not in most of the movie. It's the voice of Mr. Here that you hear most of the time. So we actually, when we started this film, we were kind of very under the radar. Patrick, no one from Dallas knew who we were. And it was basically just a school project. She was a grad student at Yale, and we got a little bit of money from the school, and we're like, okay, we're going to make a movie with this money. And so we basically thought, how can we tell this Bobby story, but we won't have a Bobby? And so we were just like, oh, he's this invisible voice, and you're just gonna, he's gonna be the camera. And so that was the device that we used. And I was the voice of Mr. Here in this first draft.
And it was terrible.
So we made the entire movie almost. And then we brought that rough cut. We found Patrick Duffy's manager's information on IMDb, which is this database. Anyone can pay $10 and it'll tell you the email addresses of people in Hollywood, I guess. And so we just blind email to Andy Howard, who's his manager, and never expecting at all that he would want to be involved in any way. But 2 days later, the answer came back, and he's like, yes, he's in. What's your budget? And so we told him, what we had made the movie for, which was almost nothing. And again, we thought, my vision of Hollywood is this kind of thing where things are in development for a long time. You go back and forth about schedules and all this stuff. But with Patrick, it was completely different. I mean, I think a day later, the answer came back, okay, sure, that's fine, just bring me a bottle of wine. And so that's what he did the movie for.
How did you get started in this business?
Well, I'm trained as an artist. In addition to making films, I make video art. And Sherng-Lee is more trained as a more traditional filmmaker. And we started, collaborating on video art at first. And then this is the first feature-length film that we do together.
Yeah, I mean, I'm based in New York. I'm a freelance video producer. I mean, I work for the Huffington Post and do corporate stuff for Google and different places. Always working for other people, And I think at the outset of my career, I had really dreamed of making movies or making Hollywood type movies, and it had never. I guess I had cycled through a lot of different collaborators. It's almost like trying to start a band when you're on that path. You're trying to find other people who are like-minded. I'm sure there's like film students in this audience, and you know what it's like, right? Trying to find your group of people and try to support each other. But it's very hard to hold things together because there's no money, there's no recognition, there's nothing. You're just telling yourself, oh yeah, we're going to make it. And so I'd kind of fallen out of that path and was just, trying to make money, basically just trying to do my little freelance gigs. And when we met, you were working as
right. I was working as, doing an admin job at a nonprofit organization. I wasn't doing art.
And so I think we just sort of convinced each other, to be artists. So, and we didn't really start collaborating until after we were married, which was like in 2010.
2010.
And so I'd say the collaboration started in earnest in 2012. But it was hard to do it that way because you're already married, so you're putting a lot on the table when you start a collaboration like that.
Have you shot at other places? What's been the life of it?
Yeah, we premiered at the Berlin Film Festival in February. And then we've shown at Hot Docs in Canada.
Which was strange. One part of the weird life of this film is that we didn't conceive of it as a documentary. There's so many fictional elements to it. But when the Berlin programmers chose it, they wrote back to us oh, you're in. We're like, great, and you're in our documentary section. So they almost decided for us that it would be received as a documentary. And so since then on the festival circuit, Hot Docs is only documentaries, pretty much. And so, people would be coming to it thinking it's a documentary about Dallas, and then they're just like, what? There's people singing, and there's kids doing this. What the hell is this? We actually had people walk out on the screening in Berlin. Some Berliners were just like, oh my God, what are these Romanians up to? But yeah.
What are your plans for the continuation of it or your next project?
Well, we're working kind of slow now that we have a newborn. But next we're gonna do a similar vein, kind of mixing documentary and fiction. We have a project about this experimental filmmaker from France, Chris Marker. I don't know.
He's
very obscure.
Yeah, he's very obscure. He's a kind of cult filmmaker, but he was involved in this group, this underground, militant, radical filmmaking collective in the 60s and 70s called Sloan. And so we were very entranced by this idea that filmmaking could be militant and radical, and that art could change the world. So Livia in the film is going to be also a filmmaker, but she's been charged by some right-wing group to infiltrate Sloan and destroy Chris Marker. So it's kind of like the avant-garde version of a James Bond movie or something.
What's your budget?
We're not supposed to tell
Yeah.
you, but this is like a small group. So we did everything. I mean, we did almost everything ourselves. So we don't count paying ourselves, but I'd say it was about $8,000 all in,
And a good bottle of wine.
and a good bottle of wine.
Have you had a chance to premiere the movie in Romania yet?
Yeah, we have. We showed it in April at a film festival in Bucharest, and
We played at the Cinematheque there too.
yeah, and it was really interesting to. We weren't able to go to the premiere, but we've heard.
Heard it went well.
Yeah.
I'm not sure you all know, but we have a Romanian in our audience, and I'd be curious, from your point of view,
When I see it, I saw just kind of half of the movie, but I leave what they show. So there's good memories, bad memories. Good memories, bad memories. What I leave.
glad you're here.
If you could do this over, how would you change it?
Oh my gosh. Have more money? I don't know. We were never that happy with the Sunflower King. The scene that I'm in, we were never that happy with. We loved the scene with her father. I mean, that's her actual father in the film. The guy, the real guy, Ilya Alexandru, who built the Hotel Dallas and all that, he actually died in 2010 of a heart attack. So, but that's the story in that song is pretty much real. But the guy who's playing it is Livia's father, and her mom plays the mom. So anyway, we were really blown away because, I mean, he's not an actor. We were blown away when he made that, and as we said, we didn't do things in sequence. But we knew there was going to be a younger version of that same character later, and so we were trying to think conceptually how to make that differential, and so it ended up being like, well, if he's singing before, well, maybe he's singing again, but it's going to be like in a happier version of the same melody. But I don't know. I feel like the thing with when you make films on like a super low budget is that you have a choice. Like either you can try to make it be like the Hollywood movie, but you don't have any money, so it's going to be kind of like the crappy version, the poor man's version of what would be better if you had more money, more time, like whatever, Or you can just be like, okay, we can't do that, so let's just be completely off the wall and do things our own way, and if that's going to be the best version of whatever that is. So I always felt with that Sunflower King thing that, if we had had dancing villagers and children everywhere, and, it could have just, all kinds of crazy flying crane shots, that it would have been a better version of that. And instead, we kind of had, we half-assed it a little bit. And also my acting is just terrible. So maybe we would have found
an acting coach.
Maybe we'd get an acting coach for that. I don't know. What would you change?
I don't know, maybe just spending more time, allowing ourselves to be more, spending more time on the road. I think a lot of the most interesting scenes for me came from not something that was planned, but something that was kind of discovered through the process of making the film. That interview with the woman who talks about the cheese wheels, that was not something, it just kind of came out of the auditions. And so I'm sure, there would have been moments like that had we had more time.
And probably, I think, one thing I thought about, like a big thing I'd change. No one has ever asked us that before, actually. What would you change? But now I'm like, it's got my wheels spinning. Would be all the scenes with Livia and Mr. Here, where it's just her talking to him, which is actually a lot of the movie, right? It's just like her talking to this invisible guy. I think I would have filmed them in English, because having this film be a foreign language film has really shaped where it can screen. A lot of film festivals, they have very limited slots for foreign language productions. And I think the reason we did that at the time is that we didn't think you hear Livia talk now. She doesn't really sound like she's from Romania, right, when she speaks in English. and you don't. I think you aren't really able to do like a thick Romanian accent in English, so we just couldn't do it at the time. So we were just like, okay, fine, just do it in Romanian. That'll sound more authentic. And also, she'd never acted before this movie, so I think if we could have gone back in time, got a dialect coach, and done those scenes in English, and then basically had more than half the movie in English, that would have really changed the commercial prospects for the film. So it's like little things you don't think about when you're doing it. So, but I mean, the mentality of making this film really, like when we went to Romania, we didn't think it was even going to be a feature. We're just like, oh, if we get a 30-minute film out of this, that'll be awesome. You know, if we just like play at your school, that'll be great. And I think that mentality enabled us to make the film, because there wasn't a lot of stress on us. You know, we were just like, hey, we're just playing around, we're just goofing off making this movie, and it kind of gradually developed more momentum and got taken more seriously by different people. But you know, if you're starting from zero and you tell yourself, I'm going to make a feature film and I'm going to do it 3 months from now, it's so daunting. It's so hard to get started. I think that's like the hardest thing. I think I was like waiting to get started for like 10 years, you know, before I met Livia. I was like, oh yeah, someday I'm going to make that feature, I'm going to make that feature. And you say you're going to do it, but it's so scary to take on that responsibility. So I recommend half-assing it. Work for us.
Where are you next? Where's tomorrow?
Auburn.
Terrific. And then where?
Then we're going back to my hometown of Knoxville, Tennessee, where I grew up, and we're going to have a screening there at the museum. And then, and I haven't seen a lot of those high school friends in many, many years, and they're just like, what the heck is Sherng-Lee up to? So that'll be really interesting. And then onward, I forget all the dates. I think there's 7 dates in the whole South Arts Screen series, which is, it's pretty unique. I mean, we've been in a lot of festivals, we've done a lot of research on the screening opportunities. It's pretty much the only series of its kind that takes the filmmakers out of the festivals, puts them on the road, brings them to places like this, connects them with audiences. You get a little money out of it. I mean, it's so much cooler than being in a festival, actually. Like, the setting is like really surreal. I want to like shoot something here right now.
So, how long did it take you to compile the whole Juliet?
We had a 8-week shoot in Romania, and then start to finish. We started in summer of 2014, and then we finished pretty much in January of 2016.
Right before the Berlinale.
Yeah.
But I mean, we shot most in Romania. Some stuff we shot in Romania and just left a hole there, knowing that we'd finish it off when we came back to the States. So we knew they were going to get in the box, you know, and it was going to be some kind of camera obscura, but we didn't know what happened in the box. Because we knew we could film that at any time. You know, you just set up the box and do it. So it kind of came together piecemeal like that.
I know you said you did it like day by day, but was there anything, like any idea that you had that was too ambitious, being only that 2-person crew mostly, that you wish you could have added in?
Oh, a scene that we tabled, like we didn't do it.
No, I can't think of anything.
Or is there any scene that, like, with a bigger crew, you wish you could have, like, tackled? Or
I mean, certainly if we could have made that musical sequence with the Sunflower King better. I think. I mean, the other thing too. I mean,
I guess what I'm trying to say is, did you guys ever have an idea and you kept trying to tackle, like, you had to drop it being, like, a smaller crew?
no. I think pretty much every idea we had, we just threw it on there. Like, anything goes, you know.
I mean, the Christmas dinner is also, you know, you were the cameraman. I was holding the boom, and I and we only had one light. So we could definitely have used more crew for
You know
that
what
one.
it is? You know what it is? I think the answer to your question is this. When you write a screenplay and then you produce the film, then you're measuring what you could do on the ground versus this ideal that existed before, right, that you wrote. When you are there on the ground with a certain set of circumstances and you're looking at it, and then you're like, I'm going to take these ingredients that I have in front of me and then turn that into the screenplay, into the film, then you're starting with what's possible. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like reverse engineering the whole thing. And again, I think it goes back to like, how do you motivate yourself to be creative and like do this thing? And I think one of the ways to do it is just be like, well, work with the limitations that you have. You know, go out there to Romania with no money. You're going to be back in 8 weeks. You have this camera. You have Livia. You have this, that, and you're going to make you're going to make a film out of it. So it's really just kind of like throwing yourself into a situation and filming your way out. And so I feel like our mentality was always like, what can we do? Not like, what is this amazing thing that exists in our mind that we're trying to visualize?
I thought the quality of your film was really good. What did you shoot it on? And did you use natural light a lot? I mean, is that
Sure.
helped you?
So the camera, I don't know. I mean, maybe Alan probably has one. The camera was just like a prosumer. It's called the GH4. It's like, I mean, it looks like a stills camera. It's about $1,000, I think. And then the all the flying shots was on a drone, which is basically a toy. I think that's like, you can get one for $400, and it's just a GoPro. You know, those like little extreme cameras. But the colors on the GoPro are really crappy, so that's why all the flying shots are in black and white. It's like out of necessity.
Which GoPro do you use?
I want to say it was the Hero 3 Plus. It wasn't the 4K GoPro, so it was the one before that. But we shot it in 4K, which helped, I think. I mean, to me, what makes films like look really great, and I actually don't think our film looks that polished, is the use of light and like just having a great DP, which I personally don't consider myself to be. But there have been films shot on crappier cameras than ours that look better than ours. So I think sometimes people get really caught up in what they call the pixel peeping. You know, like comparing this camera to that camera. It's like, did this one have more noise with this one or whatever? And it's really just like, what can you put in front of the camera that's amazing? What can you get that no one else can show you? And then, you know, film it artistically with the right light and all that stuff. I mean, everything we had for this movie was just in the trunk of a car. So we had, I think, maybe 1,500 watts worth of light, you know, across a few fixtures, and then shot almost everything in the morning because it was during the summer and it just got blazing hot in the afternoons. And a lot of it was natural. I mean, that scene where Livia is like smoking and you can't like hear her talking. I mean, the background's out of focus, but that's like in front of a restroom in a restaurant. And we just filmed in the restaurant while there was people there and just, you know, waited for a moment when people didn't walk by. So, and that's just the lighting in the restaurant. Like, we didn't light it. The cameras these days, they can see in the dark practically. So.
Hey, listen, I hate to interrupt, but I promised our friends from the International House that they could get to a meeting by 9 o'clock.
Okay.
And so with that said, round of applause for everyone.
So we'll have, the film is actually not being officially released online and everything until January. But we made like a special edition, just like small run of DVDs, Blu-rays, and posters. I think the DVDs are 15, Blu-rays are 20, and the poster's 10, but we'll give it to you for like 5 if you buy it with the disc or whatever, and we can sign it. So if anyone's interested, no pressure or whatever, but they'll be there. We'll be over there at that table.
So I understand we have more cookies, beer, and wine. And if anyone wants a shot over here on the screen, we'll turn on those lights. You all can get to your next meeting. And we're live streaming on Facebook. And so if you haven't liked us on Facebook, it's Longleaf Studios. And one more time, thanks so much, Liv and John Lee. Thank you.
Thank you.
They're artistic. They're working.